Good morning, Husker fans. Welcome to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always for another podcast is Danny Gillette. And we're back on this Monday morning. We're going to talk some fallout from the victory on Saturday over Purdue. The Huskers with the 28-10 road win over Purdue on Saturday. It wasn't always pretty. The first half was downright ugly at times. Whether it was the kicking game, the officiating, or just the offensive output from both teams, it was not the greatest football game on earth. But at the end of the day, Nebraska was able to get the win. So we're going to break it down with some game balls, our liked and low section, and we'll get started with the fallout. Before we get to that, though, please make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section. You can also find the podcast on Spotify, Apple, anywhere else that you get your podcast. So check us out. Give us a follow there as well. Danny, how you doing on this Monday morning, man?
I'm doing good. I'm always better after a win, and I have to say, one of my favorite wins of the season so far.
Yeah, it definitely was a good win. You looking back on it, like I said, the first half left a lot to be desired. I mean, the officials did not help. The offensive pass interference on Thomas Fidone was terrible, one of the worst calls I've ever seen. But I feel like I say that every single week, when I watch a Nebraska football game. So I don't know, man. The Big Ten has a major issue with officiating, and it's been for years, but they literally just cannot officiate the game. I don't know how else to say it, but nobody in their right mind could have thought that Thomas Fidone hit the guy. And it's just ridiculous when he does exactly what he's supposed to do and still gets a 15-yard penalty. And not only that, it took a touchdown off the board, put Nebraska into a 3rd and 18. So it really was a punitive flag that I think, in my opinion, changed the entire first half, almost changed the game. And these officials have to stop, controlling the game like this. You look at the Minnesota game last year, and they could not, even with the benefit of replay, see that Gabe Ervin the ball clearly crossed the line for a touchdown. So they basically robbed Nebraska of a bowl game, which is millions of dollars. When you go to a bowl game, you still get a paycheck. And so, there's a lot of financial implications in all this stuff. There was a blown call in the Michigan State game last year when they also had the benefit of review. And it's like, why do we even have review? Why do we even have review if these dumbasses, I'm sorry, if these dumbasses are just as bad in slow motion as they are in real time? Like, it's just, I don't know how to explain anymore how bad Big Ten officiating is, but I don't know how this conference can put up with it anymore. It's an embarrassment.
I'm going to give you a number, Chris, and then you can tell me what it means. 260.
Is that the penalty yards?
That is the combined number of penalty yards in the game on Saturday. Not just Nebraska crazy. Combined. But either way you look at it, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And when you look at the Thomas Fidone play, he specifically went out of his way to avoid the guy. I mean, you saw him kind of sidestep a little bit. You saw him try to, do his best to not run into that guy. And it was a very well drawn up play, I thought. I thought that play execution was great. The scheme was well thought out, and they got called a penalty for it. And like you said, what's the benefit of replay if they can't even get it right? So this officiating is awful. It was awful, the entire game, the last 2 weeks. I mean, just to put it simply, it was awful. And I think when you talk about the officiating, you also have to look at the times when they called holding and the times when they let it go. There's no consistency to the holding calls. Yes, there's holding every play, but if you're going to have drive-killing penalties due to holding calls, then call it a little bit more consistently, please.
Yeah, the holding it is really annoying, and you see that the defensive front from Nebraska gets held all the time. Nash gets held all the time, and it's just really bad. And I keep saying this, and I know people think I'm joking, but I seriously think like every Big Ten official needs to be fired, because I don't know that there's a single one in the conference that can do the job. And that's probably not true. That's probably an overreaction, but it's literally every game.
I don't know if it's an overreaction. After watching 5 years of Nebraska football, I don't know if that's an overreaction.
And I watch Michigan too, because I'm a fan of both teams. So I watch two, I watch more than 2 Big Ten games every week, and every single game there's like mind-boggling calls. And almost every single game they screw up a replay, which I do not understand. I just do not. It's like their standard for changing a call is just like I don't know what incontrovertible evidence is to the Big Ten, but There's like clear. There's been so many times where there's been clear evidence to overturn it, like the Gabe Ervin play, and they're just like, nope, can't see it. And it's
Yeah.
like, how can you not see it? Are you like literally? Are you blind? Are the people that work in the Big Ten review office or whatever that help the officials make these calls? Are they blind? I do not understand how you could be this bad at officiating. And it's like, I know the NFL is bad, and it is really bad, but it's not as bad as the Big Ten, and that's saying something.
And not only that, but let them play. Like
I know.
they're ruining the flow of the entire game for both sides, not just Nebraska, for both sides. And this has happened multiple weeks. I mean, even in the second half of what was it? The
Colorado game. It was the Colorado game. It was just
like
flag.
that just took forever. And just let them play. I mean, I get that there's penalties probably on every single play, but at some point you're messing with the flow of the game for both teams, and it's just ridiculous. Like, let them play. You don't have to make the game about you, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see how that goes into next week. Rutgers is coming to town on Saturday. So, and interestingly enough, Nebraska's got 3 consecutive matchups against undefeated teams with, 5-0 Indiana, who's 2-0 in the Big Ten, Rutgers, and then Ohio State, obviously. But let's talk a little bit more about Purdue and what happened on Saturday. It really, when I was sitting there at halftime, I wasn't like freaking out or anything. I mean, I was not happy with the result, but Nebraska literally should have been leading like 20-0, and it was 0-0. So I do give this team a lot of credit because, 6, and then Purdue comes out with a long drive. They held into a field goal, but I mean, this was a 3-0 Purdue lead with, I think it was 6:21 left in the third quarter. And I'm thinking, man, Nebraska's got to score a touchdown on this drive, or at least a field goal, because if not, and Purdue has another long scoring drive like that, like this game could well be over. Like you get down 10-0, not over, but the way that game had been going, I didn't want to see Nebraska get down by 2 scores, and they finally, picked up a third down. I think it was on the touchdown. I think that was their first third down conversion. The only one they got that game, but that was a great pass by Dylan Raiola. Thomas Fedoni nearly knocked it. I nearly knocked it down. I think he thought it was for him for a second, so it was kind of like Raiola had to throw it over his own offensive player as well as the defender. But great catch, great throw, and those are the plays. Design. Yeah, and those are the plays that where you see what it's like to have a difference maker at quarterback, right? Because if Nebraska doesn't have Dylan Raiola in that situation, they probably kick a field goal, they probably punt, and they probably get down 10-0, and then they're screwed. But I thought he was so good in the second half, and he made it look so easy. And the coaching staff made adjustments and things like that, but Dylan Raiola just balled out in the second half, and I think that was the biggest difference in this game for Nebraska.
This was one of the most satisfying wins for me so far this season because they struggled in the first half. You could see they started off slow. Things were not looking good, but they didn't hang their heads. They didn't tuck their tail between their legs. They came out in the second half and they were able to put together, a complete, half. And this is something, Nebraska usually puts together a complete first half and then struggles in the second half. It was almost like a role reversal, but it was really good to see them fight back and make adjustments. I thought their usage of Emmett Johnson, while I would have liked to have seen him a little bit more, was much better in this game. I thought he did a good job running the football in the second half. He ended up finishing with 50 yards on 8 carries. But, some of those carries were taken away by Ja'Cory Barney, who is absolute money on that end-around play. 4 carries for 66 yards and an excellent block from John Bullock on the touchdown. So there was just a variety of things that were really impressive in the second half that kind of made the frustrations of the first half a little bit worth it.
Yeah, it was good to see the way that they, finally finished a game. And, one of the things I wrote in my gut reactions post after the game is, if you just blow out a team, if you take control of the game, then you don't have to worry about winning a close game. So, I mean, that's one way to have success in close games is just not to play them, just blow teams out that you should blow out. And Nebraska did that on Saturday. I mean, Raiola, 16 of 26, 244 and a touchdown. Barney, like you said, 66 yards. Dante Dowdell, 9 for 21. So that's where I'm thinking maybe Emmett Johnson needs some more carries because, I know Ja'Cory Barney got some explosive runs, but, outside of that, Emmett Johnson was the only guy to get an explosive run, which, anything over 10 yards, I would say is an explosive run. And he's the only guy to do that. And it's really disappointing to me that he did not get a carry against Illinois. So I'm not saying that, he needs to take over the job or that Dante Dowdell, needs to be removed or anything, but I do think there needs to be more of a 1A 1B situation. And I definitely don't think Nebraska can go an entire game without Emmett Johnson touching the football.
I agree, and hopefully Saturday was like a message to the coaching staff that they need to involve him more in the offense, because he really is explosive when he gets the chance. And I thought they also did a good job of getting Jamal Banks involved. He's had some quiet games on the receiving end this season, but he had 5 catches for 82 yards and a touchdown, and I thought he did a really good job of getting to the middle of the field, and the middle of the field is one of Raiola's strengths. And so he did a good job of running the routes, finding the soft spot in the coverage, and getting to the middle point of the field and creating some easy throws for Dylan Raiola, although he makes a lot of throws look easy. But I thought it was good to see Banks involved, because we know Raiola loves Nair, and for good reason. Nair has been able to produce, but it was good to see some of the other guys get involved as well.
Yeah, and I think Banks is a great guy for Dylan, a great receiver for Dylan Raiola, in just the sense he's a great route runner. He's a great, he catches the ball with his hands really well. And so Dylan's ability to place the ball, really accurately, in a way that most quarterbacks can't, I think is really advantageous, especially for a guy like Banks. And we've seen that numerous times this year where, he'll be essentially covered one-on-one, and they'll just Dylan will basically just throw it up to him and throw it up to a spot, and he'll go get it. So, we saw a little bit of that on Saturday. Emmett Johnson too, and though a 27-yard reception as well. So I mean, he's making plays in the passing game too. So like, we got to get this guy more touches. Seems very simple to me to understand that. I mean, you look at the Northern Iowa game; he was off the charts electric. So let's get the ball to guys who are making plays. If you're making plays, keep giving them the football, and that seems pretty that seems pretty common sense to me. So hopefully that continues. But yeah, Ja'Cory Barney's been a playmaker. But I guess another huge thing for me though, and outside of Dylan Raiola, I think the reason that Nebraska won this game is that the black shirts actually played like the black shirts that we thought they were going to be at the start of the season. Purdue came into this game averaging 5.6 yards per rushing attempt. They averaged 1.6 on Saturday, and it was a close game for, until the fourth quarter. So they had every chance to, establish the run in Nebraska, shut it down. The one big turnover by John Bullock, the interception, they got 5 sacks. James Williams really showed up. MJ Sherman showed up with some sacks. So even Ty Robinson, the defensive line really carried the day. I thought the front 7 was better. It was good to see Javin Wright out there. Sayer Wright, again, played very well. Another guy like Emmett Johnson. I don't care who's healthy in the secondary. Sayer Wright needs to be the cornerback. Marcus Buford cannot start over him at corner. Okay. Like that cannot happen. Like that. We've all seen it. Okay. Everybody on this roster knows who the 2 best cornerbacks on this team are, and they need to be on the field every single play. Now, Marcus Buford, maybe he can be a slot guy, another backup, whatever. I'm not saying he's not going to play, but the best players need to play.
Right. And I mean, we're seeing that on offense. I mean, Barney's playing. He's one of the best players. Nelson's, Carter Nelson's playing and stuff like that. But you brought up Sayer Wright, and he's been really, really huge in the absence of, Tommy Hill, who's dealing with some injury stuff and things like that. So getting Wright out of the transfer portal was probably one of the most not overlooked, but kind of under recognized additions of the offseason, and it's paying dividends. And I think for Buford, I don't think he's a corner. I think he's more either a slot type of guy or even a safety. But it was good to see the secondary kind of play a lot better. And I know people will say the defense gave up the touchdown towards the end of the game, but to me, I wasn't too worried about that. I thought Ty Robinson did a good job of being involved in the plays and, getting more pressure on the quarterback. I thought Kai Wallen was a name that I saw mentioned a couple times, so I thought he played really well too. He was around the quarterback. He was kind of bringing that pressure off the edge. So it was a really good defensive effort. This is something they talked about, throughout the course of the week, that they were, quite frankly, pissed off and they wanted to play better, and they did that. And Devin Mockabee is not an easy guy to contain. I feel like he's been at Purdue for like 10 years now, and they were able to do it. And he broke off some, big runs in the second half a little bit, 6-7 yards, but nothing too crazy. And I thought they did a good job of containing the rush, something that, they've struggled with over the past couple games.
Yeah, and I think that's a good sign going forward. But yeah, neither running back had averaged 4 yards a carry. It was 3.2 and 3.3. Obviously, the quarterback sack in college, sack numbers are taken away from the rushing yardage, so that's that's how you get a little bit of a lower number. But the thing that's maybe most impressive to me about the defensive stats, or with the work they did on Saturday, is the longest play that Purdue got was 19 yards. They didn't have a single play over 20 yards. So I mean, if you can do that, like, you're going to win most games. And I don't know why anybody would be upset about the last touchdown. I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to go a game without a touchdown, but they scored with 1:30 left. The game was over. It had literally zero impact on what happened.
Nebraska fans are insufferable. I mean, we know that.
I mean, I'm insufferable though, and even I was, not worried about that. Like, I mean, come on, guys, let's not cry about garbage time touchdowns here. Like, Nebraska's defense did the job, and I thought they were spectacular. So if they can play like that on Saturday, they're going to have a chance. And I know it's really weird to me. It feels like Nebraska fans are like coming into these games like we're like a massive underdog, like the Huskers. Like, oh, it'd be a miracle if they won one of these games. Like, Nebraska can go 2-1 in this stretch. Like, they could. I'm not saying they could win all three, but these first two games are very winnable if they just avoid mistakes. Do not shoot themselves in the foot. But the issue, you're going to have a tough time winning close games with the kicking game the way it is. I will say, however, I'm not on the fire Ed Foley train. Like, I'll just say that right now.
I'm not either, and because people are like, oh, you want to fire Ed Foley? I don't want to fire Ed Foley, but I do think he needs to be looked at. Maybe, something needs to be worked out, because that unit overall has underperformed. And again, I'm not on the fire train, and I know people have said, oh, you're on the fire Ed Foley train. No, I'm not. I just think it needs to be kind of looked at to see what can be improved. Okay, sorry, Chris. That was just my piece.
No, I mean, yeah, whether it's Matt Rule, but here's what I was gonna say before I get into that. The positive is that they made the last 4 extra points. Okay, those aren't field goals, but one of the problems they were having was with the snap and the hold. Okay, and the snap, the snap and the hold is the same on the PAT. Now, I can't say for certain that every PAT hold, was like, laces out, like it's supposed to be, but because the laces were facing the kicker in the Illinois loss, which it's not ideal. I mean, hopefully that's not an excuse. Still make the kick, but it's not ideal. You don't want the ball spun where the kicker is kicking the laces. But at any rate, I thought that was encouraging, and I feel like these are correctable issues for the most part. Long snapping, I feel like, is a correctable, coachable thing. I don't know exactly what's going on with John Hall, but I want to say that he was kicking from a hash mark again. I just can't remember. So maybe there's some issues there. I know they've got
struggles with the hash mark kicks, I've noticed.
Yeah, and that's not unusual. When they've got Brett Maher, coming through here and working with him. I hope that Tristan Alvano can get healthy, and so I'm hoping that maybe it's as simple as just cleaning up some things in the long snapping, which I think can be done, or there's got to be somebody else on this team that can long snap, and just getting Tristan Alvano healthy and just building confidence, because I really feel like with Tristan especially, he's got the talent to be a Big Ten kicker. He just has to start doing it, and he was, and so that's the unfortunate thing about the injury. He had 2 games where the last game he made 2 field goals. Now, neither of them were super long, but he did make them both, and then he gets hurt again. So it's like right when they finally start getting, some competence, they get injuries. So just a whole kind of litany of bad things there.
And as a kicker and as a special teams player, especially, it's a lot of it's mental. A lot of it's mental. So when you start missing some of these kicks, or you get your kick blocked, or the blocking is not right, or the snap's not good, it kind of sticks with you a little bit. I mean, having been a team manager of a college football team, I've seen, kickers go from absolute money one day to really struggling and trying to find their groove after they miss a kick or two. So I think once Alvano gets healthy and you start to see some of these kicks go through the uprights, things will be better. Right now, I'm just hoping he gets healthy. I'm hoping this isn't a lingering injury, because if so, that absolutely sucks for him.
And I do want to say, I mean, I thought that Brian Buschini had a good day punting the ball. He did a nice job pinning him down deep.
He's had a good season.
I thought the coverage was better. I don't remember, any big returns or anything from Purdue. So it's like, that's the thing about special teams is, you've got a few. When you make a mistake, it's much more glaring. And I will say though, that one thing that Greg Schiano his teams have always been known for is blocking kicks. They've always been known for that type of thing.
I was going to say that's one of my worries heading into this week.
Got to watch out for that. This is the Huskers got to work on their 4th down Like they just got to know going into it, like unless we're inside like the 20-yard line at this point, like I would say anything 25 and beyond, if it's fourth and, you know, basically under 5, I'd be going for it, and if you're outside if you're like outside the 35, I'd probably even push that to fourth and like basically anything under fourth and 10, like I don't know if you want to be going for it on fourth and 12. I might try the field goal kicker at that point just based on the percentages, but the farther out you get though, the better chance you have of it getting blocked, and a blocked field goal return for a touchdown or something is like the kind of play that is hard to recover from, especially if this game plays out like the Big Ten West affair we had in West Lafayette on Saturday.
And now you have the offensive personnel where you feel comfortable going for it on a fourth and medium or a fourth and short. Last year we didn't have that, so that's a plus as well. But boy, was it a Big Ten West affair in every sense of the word. I mean, from the special teams blocks to the running the football to the penalties. It had a little bit of everything on Saturday, and it was good to see Nebraska come out on top. And I just think it spoke to the resolve. And one of the questions I had for this team was if they got punched in the mouth, would they be able to respond? And I think Saturday they got punched in the mouth a little bit, and they responded well on Saturday.
They did, and they got the win. So however it looks, a win is a win. And so let's give out our game ball. So we decided we're going to just give out one game ball, each of us, like the coaching staff. They gave each of us one game ball that we can bestow upon the team. So we haven't talked about who we're going to give our game balls to. So I will let you go first, Danny. Who is your game ball
first? All right.
for week 5, the 28-10 win?
My game ball, 28-10 win, week 5. Can it go to a unit?
Yeah, sure. It can be. Yep. You can say however you want to say it. So
it goes to the black shirts because they had some gaping holes the past couple games, especially with the rush defense, and even the secondary was a little leaky. And they were called out by their coaching staff. They were called out by Isaac Gifford, and they performed. And I was very impressed with the way they played. And I was impressed with the run defense, the way they were able to contain 85-year senior Devin Mockabee. No, I'm just kidding. But the way they were able to contain the running game and the way they were able to get pressure on Hudson Card was encouraging to see. So I give it to the defense.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing wrong with that. I'm going to give it to John Bullock, who, the former walk-on, 4 tackles, tackle for loss, a pass breakup, and then, of course, the game-sealing interception. The Huskers basically getting touchdowns on like back-to-back plays almost to really shut the door on Purdue. So it was awesome. I love seeing the defense score touchdowns. I think that was the second one this year, right? Tommy Hill had the one against Colorado.
Yep.
I don't think I'm missing any others. So yeah, usually when you get a defensive touchdown, usually win the game. So it's pretty. So that was a really cool play. Dylan Raiola was probably my other candidate, but that it is what it is. Yeah. So let's go on to the next section now. We'll wrap it up here, and liked and loathed. So we'll go through a few of these kind of rapid fire. One thing I guess that I liked was the finish in the second half and just coming out, adjusting, and being able to be the better football team when it really mattered. And Nebraska didn't really do that against Illinois. Illinois, I think, was the better second half team, and I liked how the Huskers flipped the script and really controlled the second half and won when they needed to.
That was one of my, reasons for this being my favorite game. They were able to close it out in the second half, and they were able to kind of put the nail in the coffin in a game where it was a little iffy at times. One of the things I liked was the Ja'Cory Barney sweep play. That play is absolute money every single time they run it, and I hope they run it more. I know people get upset because, they say that Marcus Satterfield is calling the game cute, but that is a money play for Barney. Great block by Alex Bullock on the touchdown, and I just like Ja'Cory Barney in general. He's a stud. I'm glad we beat Miami for him.
Yeah, I like Ja'Cory Barney too. I can't believe he's not a top 100 recruit because he's certainly playing like one. One of the things I loathe, which we've already talked about, but the officiating. They ruined this game. They took a touchdown off the board for Nebraska, and luckily the Huskers were able to rebound. But if you were sitting here and Nebraska lost like a close game on Saturday, I mean, they would have a real case to make to the Big Ten, and this officiating has got to get addressed. But that's one of the things I loathed.
I feel like we could just put officiating as one of the prerequisites for the loathed every week, right?
Yeah, probably could.
Yeah. The special teams blocking for the field goals is something I loathe, and that's something that's going to need to be looked at a little bit. Like you said, Rutgers coming up is a tough team, and They should be able to do a little bit better job blocking, but that made my beard turn gray a little bit on Saturday. The blocking on the field goals needs to be better.
Yeah, giving up 2 blocks, I'm going to agree with you that I loathe giving up 2 blocks. I can handle a miss, that's one thing, but to have 2 kicks blocked in one day just spoke to kind of how poor the kicking operation is. So, I mean, I guess I could say I just loathed the kicking operation. Was better in the second half, but if Nebraska honestly doesn't have all these crazy mistakes and the touchdown taken away by the referee, they probably win this game like 42-10. Like, that's not being unrealistic. They should have won this game 42-10. So, the fact that it was 28-10, like, maybe I can understand why people are like, man, they still don't like believe in this team, I guess, or whatever. But this team dominated Purdue on Saturday. They just was a few unlucky breaks that prevented it from being like a real butt kicking.
I agree. And so, I guess one thing that I liked was the play of Ty Robinson. I thought he did a good job of getting to the quarterback and getting in the backfield. He only had one registered tackle in the box score, but he had the sack too. And I was wondering if he was going to be able to contribute at a high level because he seemed to have slowed down over the past couple of weeks. Also doesn't help when he gets held every play, but he was able to really put a stamp on this game, and it was great to see him get back to his old self.
One thing that I liked was the pass rush, 5 sacks. James Williams really stepping up. It was good to see MJ Sherman get after the passer, and they needed, some of those edge pass rushers to step up. The other guys haven't quite been getting it done, and so it was good to see them get after the quarterback. That's what good defenses do, and that's a huge reason why they were able to shut down the Purdue offense in the second half.
Absolutely. One thing I loathed, I guess you could say, was the amount of penalties that were called against Nebraska. It goes with the officiating, but holding penalties have been a problem for Nebraska throughout the past couple of weeks. So I'd love to see them get that cleaned up a little bit. Again, every play can be called holding, but at least just make it like not look like you're holding. And one of the things that I noticed is that there's been some blocking and back penalties in recent weeks against the wide receivers. Saturday it was Isaiah Nayor, so I'm hoping they clean that up a little bit. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but I'd like to see that kind of sort itself out. Again, the officiating was terrible, but
Yeah, so the last thing that I loathed is the penalty, the pre-snap penalties that Nebraska continues to get on like 3rd down, 4th down, when they get, deep into the red zone. This team has still, even though with all the touchdowns, they've really struggled. I think they had 6 drives on Saturday. The first 6 drives of the game, they got inside the 40 and they got 0 points. And you look back at the Illinois game, and it was like their last 4 drives of the game, I think, were inside the 40, and they scored once. So this team still has a real issue when it gets inside the 40-yard line of kind of executing and finishing off drives, and it doesn't help. Like, I remember one time, it might have been on the first drive of the game, but it was like 3rd and 1, and then we got like a false start penalty or illegal, like one of those pre-snap penalties, and all of a sudden it's 3rd and 6. It's like, though, you cannot do that. And those when you're having a tough time in the red zone, a lot of teams, if you look at they're having issues in the red zone, it's those pre-snap penalties, man. They kill you. They get you behind the chains. And so that's one thing I really loathe seeing. And that's a coaching point I would like to see corrected. Like, hey, guys, we're a veteran offensive line, too. This is the 5th oldest. I mean, I guess maybe not now because they've had some replacements, but still, those types of pre-snap penalties, they've got to get those cleaned up.
I guess the last thing I loathed, and this isn't really about the game, but the fact that we have so many starters out right now, it's been forcing guys on the line to really kind of step up, and there's growing pains with that, but I'd love to see the line get healthy because it seems like we haven't had a healthy line, and Lord knows how long.
Yeah, and who knows what's going to happen with Micah Mazuka. I haven't really seen much.
No, I haven't either.
I don't really foresee him in the starting lineup though, but I do think that Gunnar Gatula acquitted himself well. So that
I think Bazooka's still on the team though. So
yeah, I haven't seen that he's not on the team yet. So we'll see if Matt Rule addresses that this week in his press conference. But Gatula didn't allow a sack on Saturday, and so I thought that he held up well. You look at he's now played basically a game and a half, and he's given up 1 sack and like a couple pressures. So he's kind of what I thought he was going to be. I'm not saying he's going to be like a future 1st-round pick left tackle, but he's a dude that knows how to get in the way of the other guy. And sometimes that's all it takes, especially when you got a smart a smart quarterback who knows how to get rid of the football. Like, you just need somebody to give him a chance, and Gunnar Gatula is definitely doing that and more, I think, at left tackle right now.
And sometimes that's all you need to be an NFL draft pick. I mean, when you're a lineman, you know, I'm not going to say the bar is set low, not to offend you, Chris, but you can kind of, as long as you can get in the way of, you know, the defensive line, you're golden. So he's been able to do that. He's been thrust into a difficult situation, and he's done really well.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot of quality offensive line play right now. So, I mean, you look at a guy like him, and yeah, you put together a few good seasons playing there. He's probably more of an interior guy, maybe at the next level, but you see a lot of guys that kind of shift from, that's kind of the new thing, is the shift from a guy from tackle to guard, and then, you know, kind of like a solid pass blocker, and then you move them inside. They're not, you know, so much out on an island. I think we'll probably see an NFL team do that with, you know, with Turner Corcoran. If he, you know, when he gets his opportunity, not saying he'll get drafted, but I think he's good enough to get a camp invite or whatever. So, at any rate, that's, I guess, the end of a liked and loathed. Do you have any final thoughts on Purdue, Danny, before we wrap up here today?
I'm glad we got the win. This was a win in other years where we could have not won and completely folded due to how we struggled, but we came back, we battled, and we fought. And I think that speaks a lot about this team. So I'm hoping we can get a full game on Saturday, but I was happy with the way the team responded. I know it wasn't pretty. I know we were both frustrated. I know many fans are still frustrated, but a win is a win. We're 4-1. For those still complaining, just enjoy the ride. And you know, if you had told me at the beginning of the season that we'd be 4-1 after 5, I'd be completely happy with that, and I am. You know.
Yeah. I mean, sure, I would love to be 5-0, and you know, they obviously should have won that game, but you know, they're still 4-1. They're 1-1 in the Big Ten. All the goals are still there. Every goal is still attainable. Now, you can, you know, argue about the validity of Nebraska being a playoff contender this season, but that goal is still out there. And you know, I mean, this team probably, with this schedule, I would say probably has to win 10 games, but I don't know, man, because you got a lot of these teams now that don't look like such easy wins. So maybe if they do get 9 wins, they're in the mix. But I don't know. I'm just saying that there's still a lot for this team to play for, and we're going into game 6, and like, you know, every other year, or at least like not every other year, but the past, for the last decade, like at this point, we've been 2-3, you know, 1-4, 0-5, just trying to, you know, like, oh, how can we somehow miraculously put ourselves in a position to make a bowl game? And right now we're trying to, like, how can we put ourselves in a position to be a playoff contender in November? And so I feel like that's a lot better place to be at. And yeah, man, if we lost that Purdue game, I think that would have been cause for concern. But you know, they battened down the hatches. They play good football. This is a good team. This is a good football. It's not a great team, but this is a flawed team, but it's a good team. And I think they can beat almost, I'm not ready to say they can beat Ohio State, but I think they can put a scare into them, though. I'm not saying they can be, and Tommy Hill's got to be healthy. If we don't have Tommy Hill, I don't know how the hell we're going to stop that pass offense. But if we've got Tommy Hill,
Ohio State, you're talking about?
Yeah, to Ohio State. I know that's way ahead of, but I'm just saying, like, you know, because they got Emeka Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith. So if we don't have Hill in, right, like, I'm not sure how we're going to stop those dudes. But if we do, like, I think we can stop their run game. And I don't know. I think we can make that game interesting. That's what I don't want to, I'm not saying like to go win, but I just don't want to see us like get beat 55-0. I'm so sick of that. You know what I mean?
I don't think it will be. You know,
I don't think it will be either.
Not to like look forward to Ohio State, but not too many people can stop Emeka Ibuka and Jeremiah Smith. I mean, those are two of the most dynamic receivers in the country. But you know, all the people complaining, I'll just end my rant here. All the people complaining about being 4-1 and, oh, we have these problems, oh, we have that, blah, blah, blah. As long as there's a W in the win column at this point, just keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take an ugly win over. We haven't had that many. I won't say beautiful losses, because we've had a lot of just weird losses. But I'll take an ugly win over a loss any day of the week. So
especially on one-score loss in the fourth quarter at this point, or overtime.
And man, you beat a Big Ten team. I don't care who it is. You beat any Big Ten team on the road by 18 points. Like, pat yourself on the back. That's a good
on the road is tough too. I mean, that's not an easy place to play.
Yeah, hell, man. Even if you're Ohio State, you go beat Purdue on the road by 18. You're feeling pretty solid about yourself. You know, like you feel like you earned that post game meal, whatever, you know, steak or whatever. You know, like maybe
post game brew.
Yeah, maybe not if you beat Purdue by like 3, then you're like, God dang, we gotta suck.
Well, then you're drinking post-game brews, except for a different reason, right?
But when you beat Purdue by 18 and you left like 20 points out there, like, yeah, you're feeling all right about that. So that's where I'm at, anyways.
Yeah, I'm happy. Stop complaining to those who are. Enjoy the ride. We're 4-1. Can't wait for Rutgers. Going to be a great game. I believe it's on the road, if I'm not mistaken, which is always a fun place to
No,
play.
that one's at Rutgers is home. Rutgers
Okay.
is at home. Indiana's on the road. So
Ooh, Indiana on the road. That's gonna be
hopefully,
tough. But
hopefully the Huskers don't suffer the same fate as I did on my first dynasty go around with Nebraska, where I was defeated by Rutgers because I continually rough the punter. I had like 3 roughing the punter penalties.
I do all the time. It's so annoying.
Well, this is before they updated it too, where they took that out a little bit, and so I'm so scared now. I just do safe return every time because I'm not willing to. I work hard for those stops on defense, man. They're hard to get, and then got Kobe Brett's out here just ramming into the guy. Not Kobe Brett's personally, but his video game character.
Yeah, no, but enjoy the ride, folks. It's fun. It's been fun. It's been frustrating at times, but this is all part of building a program. I'm happy with where you're at, with where we're at, and you should be too. So,
all right. On that note, we'll wrap it up here, guys. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll break down Rutgers with our keys, predictions, and X factors. So make sure that you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.